Good evening, and welcome to True Doug Man Encounters. I'm your host, Marvin Allen. If you or anyone you know has had a sighting and would like for me to tell it on my channel, then please contact me at Marvin Allen True Encounters. That's Marvin Allen True Encounters. I would love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go and do so by clicking the button below. Now, a few things I would like to say before we get into this next encounter. I would like to say that I hope that each and every one of y'all are doing okay and are following the proper guidelines to stay corona free. Now we're gonna talk a little bit about this Doug, man. I had a conversation with one of my subscribers the other day, and we was talking about, about the time when the government agent Posner came out and talked about these cryptids, about what they do if they get out of hand. Then a special team they send in a special team to go in to eliminate these creatures, because he say that some of these creatures the government captured and tagged them. That means they got a device on them to track them anywhere they go. So basically, that's how that was when me and him was talking about that. But I can't say that the guy lying or is he telling the truth. I don't know. So I can't judge nobody. So I left it as that, because it could be true about everything that he's saying. Now, this next encounter that I got, they didn't give me the location or nothing like that. So, as always, I just be happy just to get that encounter so I can share it with y'all. And this encounter had to do something with all the family members, So it's like they was being tortured when I tell you and I get into this encounter. But a few other things, I'm still working on my computer, so hopefully in the weeks to come, everything should be ready, because I got someone working on the logo. I do have other people whom I have teamed up with who are doing encounters in other parts of the world. So hopefully some of them will be coming out real soon. And as soon as I get them, I'm going to share them with y'all. Because like I said, man, y'all are the best subscribers in the world. And I love each and every one of y'all. And a lot of times I get emotional, man, because all this is coming from the heart. Everything I say is coming from the heart. I love all of y'all unconditionally. Just the things y'all say and y'all comments and the likes. Now, I don't get many like other channels get, but I'm happy and I'm grateful for how many likes or comments I get. I'm not trying to battle with nobody else, because I know in due time our channel will be number one. Hear me again. In due time, our channel will be number one. Now notice I say ours, because it's not just mine. It's everybody who has clicked that button and subscribed to my channel. It's yours too. So we doing this together. The venture I go on, y'all going with me. The investigations I go on, y'all going with me. Not going by myself. I can't do it by myself. I need y'all. Now, right now, we're at 800 and something subscribers. We trying to reach 1,000. That's our goal. So again, please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please click the button below. I would love to have you. Just come on, listen to it, and check it out. And you can be the judge of yourself. But I believe the way I do it, even though I'm doing it off my phone, the way I do it, I'm still giving y'all good content. I'm good at what I do, and I love doing what I do. Now back to this family. They didn't give me the location, nothing like that. Like I told y'all, I was happy just to get their encounter. Because I love getting it, helping them the best way I know how, and then sharing it with y'all. I never said that I was an expert in this field. You never heard me say that. I don't think there's any experts out there. And if a person say that they're expert when it comes to these cryptids, then I'll be the first to say that they are a liar. It's no experts. We can only assume things. That's it. We don't know where they breed, if they breed underground, if they breed up top. We don't know these things. When they breed, we don't know if they had 1 or 2 pups. We assume. We only can go by what people have seen. If we haven't been there when these creatures gave birth, then we don't know. In order to know about these creatures, we have to study them up close. I mean up close. Not no 100 and 200 yards away, up close. When you can study a specimen or a creature up close in its own habitat, then we could say for sure, oh, I seen this creature give birth to 2 pups, 1 pup, 3 pups, 4 pups. We don't know. It's no experts in these fields. And I do have some equipment, but I don't have a lot of equipment, fancy things like some people have. But I'm content and I'm grateful for what I do have. I can't wait to go back out into the field because I do have a few locations in the area that I stay in the surrounding counties, and I want to hit those areas hard with those eyewitnesses who don't mind going out with me and one of my team members or 2 to show us where they saw these creatures at. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So I can start bringing y'all evidence and stuff like that. Tree structures, all types of things. And like I said, I want to do this channel on all cryptids. Not just the Doug Man. We talking Bigfoot, Goat Man, Rake, Lizard Man, the Jersey Devil. We want to do it on all type of cryptids. But our main subject is at the top of the list, and that will be the Doug Man. That would always be number 1 because that's what the show is based on. This monstrosity of a cryptid Doug Man. That's our first goal. That's what we want to break the code on of what this thing is. How do this thing roam? And another thing, like I told you in my last video, I got a guy not that far from Taylor, Mississippi, who has invited me and my team to come back down there because he know hot spots. He said he's guaranteed to take us out where we'll see these creatures, these cryptids. He said he's guaranteed that we will have an encounter. But he said that this area that he would take us in, these cryptids are wild. He said these cryptids will chase you. He said these cryptids, if feel threatened, they will attack. So we would have to go prepared. We would have to go and respect their area. We would have to go and be careful because we don't know what would happen. I don't mind studying these things afar until we can get close. I believe that some people have built a relationship with these cryptids, with these creatures. I have eyewitnesses who have gotten close to these beings. I have eyewitnesses who have talked to these creatures, who have communicated with these creatures. I have eyewitnesses. And I have eyewitnesses that would go in the areas where they saw them at and take us. But it's on their terms. No guns, no cameras. They said they don't mind going, but without those. So it got me contemplating. If a person willing to take you somewhere and guaranteed you a sighting, but you can't take those two items, would you go? Please leave me a comment and let me know, would you go if you guaranteed to see these creatures? Please leave me a comment and let me know what you would think. Now I'm back to get on with this encounter. Like I said, this encounter right here, he did not give me the place of where it happened at. I was just glad to get it. So without further ado, let's jump into this second encounter. Now this encounter right here, destination, it is unknown. But this encounter right here happened. This guy say he took his family and they had a cabin where they would go and stay for the summer. So he said, they packed up the van, took everything they would need, and they went out to stay at this cabin that they had. So they got there, took everything in, straightened up. After they got everything in order, they had, sat down. And the son said, well, I'm going to go outside and, and play a little bit. Because mind you, they not only had this cabin built and owned it, they owned it a lot of land around there. And this was secluded from other people. It was just somewhere they could go to get a peace of mind. So the son go out. So the son say every summer when he was going there, since he was small, his father used to take him on a walk on different paths that they had on their property. So the son said, he grabbed his dog, put him on a leash, and they walked. They went down this path. So he walking with the dog. He said, but every now and then, the dog would stop. And his ears would go up. Boom. They would go straight up. And so he would be like, boy, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? He said, At first, he didn't notice that the noise had stopped. He said because he could hear all the animals at first. He said, but this didn't dawn on him until later. He said he noticed the noise had stopped. So the dog is just sitting there, ears up, looking, and it's looking straight ahead. So he said, what's wrong, boy? What's wrong? What's wrong? So he said the dog started to growl real low. He said all of a sudden the dog attitude just changed. Ears went down flat. Pop. He said then the dog started whimpering, making that kind of noise. So he said, what's wrong, boy? What you see? He said he looking forward to where his dog is looking at. He said, but he don't see nothing. He said, and as he's standing there, he said he started to smell this foul odor in the air. He said it was a nasty smell. He didn't know what it was. He thought it was some kind of animal dead out there. So he's trying to, walk past the dog and pull a leash. The dog don't move. It just sit there. It don't move at all. So he was like, come on, boy, let's go, let's go. He said that's when he can hear twigs and sticks break. Crack, crack, on the ground, like something stepping on it. And then he can hear the leaves crunching. And he looks, but he don't see nothing. But he still see his dog looking up through the tree line. So he said, what's wrong, boy? What do you see? So he said he kneels down and rub him. He said the dog's still pouting and all that kind of stuff. And then he said, you ready to go back home, boy? He talking to the dog or whatever, like it's a human. But this is the stuff that he said he was saying. So he stood up, grabbed the dog, and, said, come on, boy. He said, but the dog was so scared that it wouldn't move. He said that's when he heard the sound again. The leaves, the twigs breaking and stuff, like something is stepping on it. So he looking around. He said, so what he did, he yanked on the dog again. Come on, boy, let's go, let's go. He said the dog finally turned and started walking back. So he walking back with the dog. He said, and as they was walking back, he heard footsteps behind him. He said loud footsteps. Now, mind you, he said that he wasn't that far from the beginning of the trail until it would lead in the backyard of their property and their house. He said, so he heard footsteps and it sounded like they're following him. He said, so he would stop. He said, but he was too scared to look back. He said, when he stopped, the footsteps would stop. He said, and when he did that, the dog turned around. The dog looked. And he said, whatever that dog saw, it broke away from him and took off back to the house like it just left him. So he's still standing there. But he don't hear these footsteps no more because he didn't walk. So he see the dog just bolt and leave and him. So he started walking again. He said that's when he heard those steps again. Boom, crunch. Boom, crunch. Boom, crunch. hear the sounds of twigs and leaves breaking. He said, so he get almost by the entrance of that trail, by that path. And he said something told him to look back. He said when he looked back, he seen this tall, dark figure go behind a tree. Said it went behind this huge tree. It just went behind it. And then he said he turned back around and he haultailed. He just left and went in the house. He told his family. He told his mother and his father, and his sister. He said, I seen something in the woods. They asked him, well, what did you see? He said, I don't know. It was just a dark figure. When I turned around, it went behind a tree. So they said, do you think it was a bear? He said, I don't think this was no bear, Daddy. Not to hide behind a tree from a human. So, the day went on. So the next day, father went out because he had some, trees already cut down, and he went out there to just cut some trees off, some logs down, so they can put it into the, because they had a wood, a wood stove, wood furnace, that they could put the wood in. So he went out there to cut some wood and stuff. He said, so while he was, cutting the wood, and then he would split them with the axe and stuff like that. He said while he was doing that, he said he heard this low growl. So he stopped chopping the wood with the axe. He heard this low growl. So he looking around, trying to figure out where it's coming from. He said because he knew coyotes was in the area, and other animals and stuff like that. He said, but he knew how a coyote sound was. And he said that this didn't come from no coyote. He knew that for a fact. He said, so he looking around. He said he walks over to the end of where he had the logs stacked at, and he looked up in the tree line. And when he looked up in the tree line, he didn't see nothing. So he turned back around, went back over, grabbed the axe, put the wood back up there to get ready to split it. He said before he was getting ready to swing, he heard that growl again. He said, but this time it was louder. So he drops the axe. He looks again, walks down to the end, looks back up in the tree line. And when he looked back up in the tree line, he said about 30 yards up in the tree line, he said he see this dark figure peeking from behind a tree. He said he see a dark figure peeking from behind a tree. And when he bent down and he looked, he said he noticed that the head looked it like a dove. These is his words. He said the head looked it like a dove. He said he could see the ears stick straight up. So he looking at this thing because he don't know what it is. He thinking in his mind, is this what my son seen ducked behind a tree? So he's looking at this thing. He said this thing just looking at him. He noticed that it's low to the ground. He said, but it still was too damn big to be a regular dove. You talking 4.5 to 5 feet, that low to the ground. That's still high to be on all fours. Because like I said, he thought that it was a dove. So he looking at this thing. And when he looking at this thing, he said this thing comes out on all fours onto this small dirt path. He said this thing was huge, man. He said this thing was huge. He said, and it was long. He said the upper body part to where the head was at was just massive. He said, and this thing watching him. He said when this thing was watching him, it started walking towards him. So he walks back down. He grabs his axe. He grabs the axe and walked back down to the other end of the where he had the log stacked at. And he looked again. He said, but this time when he went to look, he said that thing was gone. So he said he finished chopping a couple of more pieces of wood, took them in the house, stacked them up with a wood pile at, and he stayed in the rest of the day. He told his family when he sat down that night, he said, son, I think I seen what you seen. He said, but this thing looked like a dove. He said, but it was too goddamn big to be a dove. You talking 4.5 to 5 feet on all fours. He said this thing was huge. Looked like a monster. So he was telling them, don't go too far when you outside. Or let one of us know and we'll go with y'all. So said a couple of days passed. So the son said one night when he was in his room sleep, said he was sitting in a chair by his window. Said he was sitting in the chair by his window. Yeah, because he let the air blow in at night, to get some air. And his TV was on the other side. So he was said he was sitting down playing his game. He said, so while he was sitting down playing his game, he noticed that he started to smell this foul odor that was coming through the window. And he said to himself, that's that same smell I smelled when I was walking the dove. He said the smell was outrageous. It was just horrible, Then he said it smelled like wet, pissy dog too. All that mixed in together. So he said he put down his controller and he looked out the window. He said when he looked out the window, he looked towards where the father had, the logs stacked up for when they chopped the wood and stuff, to make a little fire. So the father had, where he stacked the wood up and stuff like that. He looked over there to where that wood pile was at. He said, and where that wood pile was at, he said he could see these amber colored eyes glowing. He said literally glowing like a bug. Said they was bright. He said they was huge. Looked like tennis balls. He said the eyes on this thing was just big. He said, but he looking. He said, now the wood pile is kind of high. He said he 5 something. He said the wood pile comes up to about his chin. He said he could see this thing eyes. He said he could see this thing eyes. So he watching this thing. He said this thing never blinked. He said he just watching these eyes, man. He said these eyes scared him so bad. He said because it's like these eyes was looking straight inside him, like it was looking at his soul. He said so he leave. He go in there and wake his parents up. He don't wake his sister. He wake his parents. They comes in the room. They looks. They both see those big amber colored glowing eyes. So he say, Daddy, I think that's that thing that we seen. He said, son, I don't know. Whatever it is, those are some big eyes. And he said, how are they glowing like that? It's not like you got a light on it. He said, they just like glowing up like they self, like you hit a switch on the light. So they still watching these eyes. He said, what seemed like a long time, but it wasn't. He said, all of a sudden, the eyes just went down behind the pile of logs. And they said it must have left. So the father told his son, he said, look, keep your window closed. Please keep your window closed, because we don't know what this thing is or what it's capable of doing. So the father said about 3 days later, he was sitting in the front room. Said the wife was in the room, son was in the room, daughter was in the room. So he said he was sitting in the front room. Now, mind you, he said everything was just on one level. Said they had a nice size, huge house, but everything was on one level. He said he heard this loud thump sound on top of the roof. Boom! He said then he heard something walk. Doom, doom. He said this thing walked heavy. He said it was walking on the roof so heavy back and forth that it woke up everybody in the house. So everybody else came into the front room. And the wife said, what is that noise? So the husband said, I think that's that thing on top of the roof. So he told his wife, he said, give me my gun. She went, got his gun. He went out front, walked out into the front yard, looked up. He don't see nothing. So he goes back in the house. So he said, I didn't see nothing up there. You know, maybe this thing left or whatever it was. So they went back in the room. He said, I'm going to stay up for a little while longer just to see. He said, so while he was just laying there, he said he wound up dozing off. He said when he dozed off, he said he could hear something flickering with the doorknob of their house. Something turning it. So he got up and he walked over there and he looked down at the doorknob. And he could see that something was actually turning this doorknob. Now he's fucked up in the head. Now he's saying, in order to turn this doorknob, a person would have to have hands or some type of hands. He said that's when he looked through the peephole. He said when he looked through the peephole, he just sees something dark. It just blacked out. He can't see nothing but just darkness. So he rubbed his eyes again because he thinking something on the lens or something. So he wipes the lens of the peephole and he looks again. Pretty dark. So he backs up, he moves. He go over to where it's a long couch sit by the window. So if you would sit there, that means your back would be facing the window. So he pulls the curtain, a little bit. And he looks, he said when he looked over there, he seen this dark, huge figure. He said this thing was massive. He said he only cracked the curtain. He said, but that's when this creature looked over towards where that crack was, and it walked out and it stood. He said, and it's like it leaned over and it looked right there where that crack was in the window. Like this creature knew where he was. He said this thing, it looked like something out of a horror movie. He said this thing was just massive. He said this thing had shoulders, pointy ears, the long snout. He said this thing had hands. He said that's what really freaked him out. He said, because this thing if it can turn a knob, it can open a door. I mean, it could just grab someone. This is everything that's going through his mind. Now he's terrified of his family because he don't know what to do. Ain't nobody around for miles. And then the place where they at, they said it was even hard for them to get a signal. Even on their phone. He said, so he closed the curtain. He said that's when this creature walked to the window. He said you could just see this dark silhouette of this creature. He said and it just started tapping on that glass. That. So he backed up, but he's still watching this creature from on the outside that's standing there of his window. So his wife comes back out there again. And when she see that silhouette of that creature, she screams. He turns around, grabs her mouth. He said when she screamed, that creature let out a sound that could be heard for miles. This thing woke everybody up in the house. Daughter and the son come back out there. And when they come back out there, they caught a glimpse of this creature, the silhouette of it, before it turned and it just bolted across the front and up into the tree lines. So they sit down and the father say, baby, you all right, y'all, everybody all right? You know, he told them everybody was all right. And she said, what the hell was that? He said that that's that thing that me and your son sing. She said, well, what is it? He said, I don't know what it is. So she kept saying, I think we need to leave. We need to cut our vacation short and we need to go back home. He said, all right, baby, I really want to stay and see what this creature gonna do. Maybe it's gonna leave or something. So she said, look, if it's not gone in the next 2 weeks, I'm leaving with the kids with or without you. So they made an agreement on that. So they, kids went to sleep, the mother and the father, they stayed up all night. So he got up, went out the next day. He noticed that as he walked around the perimeter of the house, all you could smell was strong piss. He said this was so strong, it's like it was burning his eyes. He said this stuff was just, the smell was just, it was just terrible, he said. And he said it's like this thing pissed around their whole house. Like it was marking its territory or something. So he said, later on that day, the wife took the son and the daughter and they went in town to do some grocery shopping. So he said he in the house by himself. So he's sitting down, he watching TV. He said, so while he's sitting down and he's watching TV, he noticed something walk past the window real fast from one side to the other. So he jumps up, walks over to the window. He cracks and he look. He don't see nothing. He said that's when he heard that sound again on the roof. Boom. Doom, doom, doom. He said these steps were so loud, man. He said this thing had to be heavy. Said it like this thing could have just jumped through the floor and landed down in their house. That's how heavy they said this thing sounded. So he grabs his gun. He looking up at the ceiling. He said after a few seconds, about 30, 40 seconds, he heard a loud thump on the side of the house. Boom! Then he heard this thing, this creature, fumbling with the trash can. He could hear it. So he gets up. He goes over to this side window that they had on the side where they keep their trash cans at. So he peeks out there. The trash cans is on the left side of this window. So he looked. He said he see this creature going through their trash cans. He said, and it's standing upright. He said he see the back of this thing. He said, and on the back of it, he could notice that this thing had a lot of hair on his back by his shoulders and the neck area, like a mane. He said this thing was just humongous. So he watching this thing. So he goes back over to where he was sitting at. He grabbed his phone, trying to call his wife, because he know that they should be getting ready to come home real soon. So he calls his wife. First, he don't get a signal. So he moving all in different spots of the house to try to lock in the signal. So finally, he locks a signal in. He gets through to her. He said, where y'all at? She said, oh, we on our way back now. We're about 10 minutes away. He said, all right, let me know when you get ready to pull up the road and then pull up into up on the property. So she said, why? She said, look, just let me know. She said, is that thing around? He said, no, baby, it's not around. Just let me know, though. She said, okay. They hung up. This thing's still digging in the trash can. Still digging in the trash can. So he said he taps on the window and then, close the curtain real fast. He said that's when this creature, it turned, because he can see the silhouette, the shadow of this thing. It turned and it stood right there where that window was. He said then this thing tapped on that window. And it just stood there. His wife calls back and tell him, I'm coming up now. I'm getting ready to pull up on the property, up in the driveway, up to where the house at. So he said, okay, baby, okay, just be careful. And he hurried up and hung up the phone. So he said he gets up. He goes out the front door with his gun, and he shoots twice. Bow, bow. He said when he shot twice, he said that creature must have dropped down on all fours. And it started to walk out. Said this thing didn't run. It walked out from the side of the house. Said when this creature walked out from the side of the house, that's when the wife and the kids was coming up. That's when the lights hit this thing. And when the lights hit this thing, she pulled on the brakes. She said then this thing just dug into the ground and just bolted straight back up in the tree line. So he runs down there to the car. Baby, you all right? So they get out the car and stuff and all that, grab the stuff and it goes in the house. They scared, they terrified. She said, I seen that thing. That thing's still around. I want to leave. I want to go home tonight. So he said, baby, come on, baby. It's too far to be driving at night. We're going to leave. She said, when? Said, I promise. We'll leave Friday. Now, mind you, this happened on a Wednesday. Said, we'll leave Friday. She said, okay. So what they started doing, they started packing all their stuff up and everything. So, so when they got ready to go, take everything out, put it into the van, and then they could just leave and just get on away from there. So Thursday come, this creature come back to the house again. And when it come back this time, it goes round to where the daughter was sleeping. And when it go round to where the daughter was sleeping, it taps on her window. She said she had just went to sleep, and that's what woke her up. The tapping sounds on her window. She said, so when she sat up in bed, she just see this dark figure standing there in front of her window. She said, but she could see those glowing amber colored eyes. She said the eyes was huge on this thing. Now, mind you, she can see the silhouette of this thing outside. She knows it's this creature because the eyes set up so high. So she said she jumps out of bed, running there and go get her mother and father. They comes in the room. When they comes in there, the creature gone. It done left. So she said, can I sleep in here with y'all? So they was like, baby, come on now, you too old for that. So they let her make a little pallet on the floor and sleep in their room. This creature wasn't done. Because now it went to the sunroom and it tapped on his window. Because mind you, remember, he used to sit over by the window and play his game. But he was in the bed this night. He said, but he wasn't asleep. He said he just seen this dark figure come up low from where his window at. He said he could see these ears come up. He said, and then the eyes just raised up. He said the eyes just kept going up and up and up and up. And then they stopped. And this thing tapping on his window. Tat-tat, 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 tat-tat. Like it's taunting the whole family. And he looking at this creature. He said that's when this thing started to growl at him. He said, but it wasn't no loud growl. He said it was low. He said, but it was powerful because he could feel it in his body. He said he was so scared and terrified. He said because if that thing wanted to come through that window, it could have. And take him, and his family wouldn't get in there in time enough to even try to save him. He said, so he eases off the side of the bed. He stands up. He said the creature knocks again. Da-da, da-da, da-da. He said that time it seemed like it was getting louder. And he thought that this creature, by its tapping on his window so loud now, that he might crack it and break it. So he stands up on the side of his bed. He said then he runs out the room. He runs in there, tell his father and them. They gets up again, goes in his room. They look, they don't see nothing. It's gone. So now they all in the parents' room, sleeping. But the son don't go to sleep. He said he stayed up all night long. He said good thing he did. He said about 3 o'clock in the morning, because he said he stayed up, just on his little tablet. Said he stayed up. He said that's when he heard something walking. Now mind you, these are their words. He said he heard something walking in the house. Heavy footsteps in the house. Now the bedroom door is locked. He wakes everybody up in the room. Shh, don't be quiet. Don't listen. So they say, what? Listen. So they don't make no noise. And when he tell them to listen, they hear cabinets opening. Is this thing just in there opening all type of stuff? Then you would hear it walk. And you would hear it sniff real heavy. Just sniffing around. Then they could hear this thing turning knobs on a closet door, the bedroom door and stuff. They said then it got to the parents' room. and they could hear whatever that was on the other side of that door turn that knob. But the door didn't open. It turned it. It said it started turning it real heavy, like it was getting mad. Because the other doors wasn't locked. So it started turning it real mad. Everybody's sitting up on the bed, scared. Father got his gun. Only thing he said on his mind right now is protecting his family. Because he don't know if this creature gonna bust through that door or not. So we tell them, all get up on the bed. He got down at the foot of his bed and he sat right there with that gun in his hand. Said this thing started turning the doorknob real violently. He said, then it stopped. He said, when it stopped, he could hear the steps go back and towards where the kitchen, living room, and the dining room and all that stuff at. It went back in there. So they still listening. They said they heard what sounded like the refrigerator. Boom! Like it slammed it real hard, the door on it. So they listening to this thing just go through their house, man, and just wreck stuff. I mean, after what seemed like a long time, but they said it wasn't long, they said this creature left. But they didn't leave out that room. They waited till daybreak before they got up to leave out. They say when they got up and the father left out, he said, stay in here. He left out, went to see what happened. Man, he said shit was everywhere. I mean, everything out the cabinets. This thing cut the chairs. I mean, it had claw marks all over the place. The smell of piss, strong piss, everywhere. It tore up their whole house. Went in the room and everything. Went through the girl, the door, the drawers and everything where she kept her clothes at. She had panties out all over the place. It was just crazy, yo. It was crazy. Now the father asking, how did this thing get in? And then the son said, I think when I went out earlier, I didn't lock that patio door. And the father said, no, don't worry about it, son. I mean, things happen. I'm just glad that each and every one of y'all are safe and alive. They took what they could, what this creature didn't destroy, and they left. They got up out of there, I asked him, I said, because I talked to each individual separately, just to get their accounts of what they seen and what they went through. I asked the father, what do you think this thing was? He said, I don't know what it was. I know dogs don't supposed to stand up on their back legs, and then when they stand up, look like a human too. He said, I don't know what it was. He said, but these things they killing machines. They killing machines, point blank. The son said the same thing. So did the daughter. That's why I had to get their encounters separately. In a room where they could tell me their part, separate from each other. I was happy to bring this to y'all, man, because this go to show you, these things ain't got no pit. Whether you invite them in or they just come in, they coming. But that was their encounter. They never went back to that cabin that they owned, and he said they wind up selling it anyway after they fixed it, the damage, because they said this thing tore the doors off and everything. It just thing just messed up a lot of stuff in their house, and they said that the people that did wind up buying the house after they fixed it back up from the damages, they did tell the people who bought the house about what was going on in the property. And they said, well, what you mean? He said, well, we had problems with these large dogs in the area. He said that he didn't tell them that there was werewolves and stuff and nothing like that. He said that he thought that they would, be on the lookout if he said, real large dogs, big dogs. I mean, the size of a dog that you never seen before. They was too big to be dogs. He said, I think they some type of hybrid or something. He said, so hopefully that family took heed to what he said he said that they was really big dogs, not no ordinary dogs. He said they was wide and they was real long. He said he didn't say that they could get up and stand up and walk and run on their back legs and nothing like that. He said, but he just hoped that they took heed to the information that he did give them. So he said that, his family, they wind up, getting another place, but it was in a different area. And he said they didn't get it way secluded out in the woods like they had their other house. They got it where it was near other houses. Like if they house set right here, about 400 yards, it was another house. So he said it wasn't like that house they had. Well, it wasn't nobody. Like it wasn't no other civilizations around. But that was the encounter. I was happy to get that, I just love doing what I do. And like I said, man, these creatures, man, are so intelligent. Man, turn door. That's the stuff that'll freak you out. If you know these things out here and you think a locked door is something that will hold them back, no, it's not gonna hold them back. They're gonna come in whether you want them to come in or not, And the son said he glad that he stayed up. He said because if he didn't, then that thing could have killed their whole family. Because they knew that thing could have got through that door if it wanted to. If it really wanted to, it could have gotten to that room. And that gun wouldn't have did nothing to stop it. So they was just glad that the son stayed up, and was aware of when this creature first came in the house and was walking through, opening up cabinets and stuff like that, man. It's just crazy, man, that these things out here and people don't want you to know that they exist, and the government want to keep it under the table and under wraps. It shouldn't be like that, man. The public should be aware of these creatures. I mean, the public should be aware of these creatures, man, to let you know that they do exist, that they are out here. Why hide something that could really, it could just go through a house just like that and kill everything in it. Then they say they got these special teams that go in that will eliminate these creatures if they start killing humans. Okay, start killing humans. If you make people aware and let people know what to do in certain situations if you came face to face with one of these creatures, don't look these things in the eyes. Just don't. Look down. Don't look threatened to them. Because if they feel threatened, yeah, that's when they're going to strike. When they think you're going to do something to them, that's when they're going to strike. Like I said, man, we don't know a lot about these creatures, man. We don't. And we need to keep educating each other on these cryptids. Because it's not just Doug, man. There's other things out there too. Goat Man, Rape, Bigfoot, you know, Jersey Devil, and so on. Toad Man. Come on, man. It's crazy. Educate one another about these things. You know, if a person told me that they saw a werewolf, what would I think? I would think that they telling the truth. Because who am I to judge them and say that they are lying just because I wasn't there? If a person say they saw something, they saw it. Don't put a person down because they say I saw a werewolf or I saw a Bigfoot or I saw a lizard man or goat man or rape. Don't put a person down. Don't do that. That make a person feel bad when a person don't believe them. You know, like I said, I hope you enjoy that encounter. Like, comment. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit the button below. So I'll see you next time on the next True Encounter. Good night.